I wonder if you guys agree. We've been sort of saying this, since when? Access Hollywood? But it really does feel to a lot of people, and I think I'm among them, that we are at the beginning of something new. There has been a turning of the tide. There is a kind of reckoning, and the escape artist is looking really, really hard pressed to escape. Do you agree, or is that sort of premature? The sense that comeuppance is actually beginning to unroll in real time.
It feels like wish casting at the moment. Well, look, the confession, we all suffer from the PTSD of all of those moments.
Right.
We access Hollywood. Remember what we thought was going to happen on January 7th? Remember what the world was like, the complete vindication of everyone who said that Trump was a danger, and all the Republicans who were quitting the cabinet and giving speeches on the floor, Kevin McCarthy, that lasted about 5 minutes. There are also some sort of viral loops that have been put together of all the people, the talking heads on cable television, nobody here, I don't think, saying, the walls are closing in on Donald Trump, the walls are closing in. I mean, this has been going on for 6 years. So maybe, but the one thing that I can confidently say is that there's no indication that the Republican Party is breaking with him on all of this.
Yeah, so
and this brings up something so interesting to me, because the idea that it was once an inquiry and questions about Donald Trump, because the Republicans haven't broken away from him, because he's in some ways only gained power, that in many ways it's so hard to separate this scrutiny of Donald Trump from scrutiny of Republicans in general. And the reason why I think that's important is because, one, and I say this as somebody who has many Republicans in my family, as I think we actually all do, of course, is that once this benefits Donald Trump so much for us as the public, us in the media, prosecutors in the Justice Department, for it to be tricky for us to separate scrutiny of him from scrutiny of the party. It really helps him, because nobody wants in the United States of America to say one of its own political parties is rotten, needs to be vanquished, needs to be routed, needs to be shut down, because that's not the way the country was designed. That is another way of saying the democratic experiment has failed. And we don't want to say that. So by twinning himself with the party, and by the party not extricating itself from him, it helps him so much, because who here in this room wants to sit and say, democracy does not work anymore. We have a completely failed party. You do. Well, that was your book. So I mean, and Charlie will be signing books after that.
So I do think it's the beginning of the end of Trump, not Trumpism. And I don't believe that because of the New York case, the January 6th case, or the Georgia case. I believe it only because of the Mar-a-Lago case, where I think he will be indicted. I think he will be convicted. And I know he's a 76-year-old first-time offender, but I think the convicted offender. But I think if you look at other cases where people have been convicted of mishandling of classified information and obstruction, which I think he's likely to be in both, they go to jail. And
so you see him going to jail?
Who knows how it will play out, but if you look at this through the lens of previous cases with this fact set, those defendants get jailed unless they plead guilty. And so if he wants to plead guilty and bargain down to no jail, maybe.
Like
but
Petraeus.
that seems like Petraeus, exactly. But that seems unlikely that he's ever going to get.
Just Matt, from your lips to God's ears.
So I mean, I come back to the thing I started this with, which is I think that the Mar-a-Lago case is a gift to the department and a gift to the country, and the way to take him out of the picture, but Trumpism will go on for some time.
Can I just pick up on something that Katie said, because it sort of loops around what we were talking about with Watergate and the contrast with Watergate, that in Watergate the democratic process worked out. It was healthy. Right. That we no longer have that kind of healthy process. We also have a very, very different media information ecosystem, and I strongly believe that if Richard Nixon had the media ecosystem that we have right now, that he would have survived. Mm-hmm. If the Republican Party would have stuck with him, if he would have had Fox News and all of the acolytes, that would have played out very, very differently. So yes, that we are in a very, very different world than Watergate.
And I just want to say one thing about Katie, the sort of Mobius strip of politics and law that unavoidably, we're looking at, which is it. It may be this is sort of back to Garland as tragic figure and trying to protect. It does seem to me, and I'm really out of my depth here, but Trump, it's interesting and also despicable, but he is going more and more extreme, where the QAnon pins, the fomenting of violence, and it does strike me that that's possible, the kind of move that makes, notwithstanding his personal charisma, makes a sort of pretty big center of the country, be able to say we just can't countenance this. He's really, it seems to be changing against all that. And I just want one other thing is this James suit is no walk in the park. I think he's got to settle. I just can't see his going to trial. I can't see his testifying. She's got a lot of cards. She is, I think, the charges that she's really sort of almost politically after him. I understand those, but that's the cards that he's now been dealt, and I think that she's going to exact very serious settlements. Doesn't put him in an orange jumpsuit, but it really potentially annihilates the Trump brand, and that's pretty close.